Welcome back to this new episode of Metal Gear Mondays. In the previous video, I did say I was going to do a reaction video to Metal Gear on the MSX2. I got about halfway through that video. It would have been about an hour and 45 minutes long. The problem is, it's one of those games that's much more fun to play than watch. I got a little... Honestly, I felt like there's no way no one's going to sit through an hour and 45 minutes of me watching and talking about this game. So instead, I'm going to go to one of the better YouTube channels for talking about Metal Gear. It's called Eligible Monster. They have the complete story of Metal Gear. They even do character profiles and all that. I may come back to them later. But here, they summarize both Metal Gear 1 and 2 in one video, give you the full catch up, and you'll better understand the story of Gray Fox. So instead of having to rely on that little cliff note narrative I gave you prior to the first episode of Metal Gear Solid, we can go with this.
1980 to 1989, Big Boss and his army fight in a variety of wars to build up their names. 1990, Solid Snake. Oh my god, I have such a schoolgirl crush on him. Okay, we won't do this again. Back to the serious voice.
Me too, bro.
Solid Snake fights in the first Gulf War for the US while Liquid fights for the SAS, and he's captured in Iraq. 1991, Big Boss returns to America and takes control of Foxhound. He does this to keep an eye on the US from the inside, while Outer Heaven is conducting its own plans.
Bear in mind, Metal Gear 1 and 2 came out prior to the Gulf War. However, at the end of each Metal Gear Solid game, there is like a timeline of events from like the very beginning of the Metal Gear timeline up until the present day or even the future. So you can think of that as like a retcon, so to speak. But let's get to it.
Outer Heaven is Big Boss's militaristic nation that he's planning on using to try and take back the fight to Major Zero. 1994, Liquid Snake is freed. And this leads us up to Metal Gear, the game that started it all. It takes place in 1995. Now real quick, just kind of bear with us on this one. It's going to be a lot of pictures because the gameplay for the first Metal Gear is on the Nintendo. So it's a little bit 8-bit and a little bit old school. We're going to give you gameplay, but we're going to do a lot of pictures.
Also, remember, the original Metal Gear, the true version of it is on the MSX2. I'm guessing he's using Nintendo screenshots just because it's more accessible. But, you know, just letting you know. But the story itself is accurate.
The US learns that the nation of Outer Heaven is building its own Metal Gear unit. In response, they send in the unit Foxhound and place them in charge of defeating it. For those keeping track, as of right now, the Foxhound unit is being controlled by Big Boss, who unbeknownst to them also runs Outer Heaven. Initially, Big Boss sends in Gray Fox to accomplish this mission. Gray Fox fails and is captured. At this time, Big Boss sends in Solid Snake, his rookie soldier, to save Gray Fox and accomplish the original mission.
Iconic.
Now for those keeping track, also, Big Boss is the genetic father of Solid Snake. But Solid Snake doesn't know that at this time, and Big Boss isn't telling. I sense a Jerry Springer moment. Solid Snake proceeds to save Gray Fox and then move on to finishing Gray Fox's original mission of destroying the Metal Gear. But to stop him from doing it, Big Boss sends him into traps, eventually telling him to even abort the mission. But Solid Snake perseveres, and eventually Big Boss has to step in himself. Big Boss reveals himself as the leader of Outer Heaven, and he took the role of the commander of Foxhound so that he could stop the US from stopping his Metal Gear. His goal is to delay and stall this mission long enough so that Outer Heaven could finish the Metal Gear. Solid Snake defeats Big Boss and the Metal Gear and sets the entire facility to a self-destruct. He then leaves Big Boss for dead and shuts the door without checking. At this time, Big Boss is just considered a megalomaniacal, crazy. But knowing what we know about the events all the way back from the first game, we know that Big Boss was actually just trying to have his personal war with Major Zero's Patriots. In the end, Big Boss survives and rescues everyone from Outer Heaven before NATO can bomb the facility. He brings them all to safety in the Middle East. At the end of the entire event, Solid Snake is made a full member of Foxhound. 1997.
Here we go.
The Central Asia nation of Zanzibar gains independence from Russia by force, secretly led by Big Boss. 1999, and this brings us to the second official release in the series, Metal Gear 2: Solid Snake. A major oil crisis.
Also, one quick thing. I know we used NES screenshots in the first part, which I don't know why. Like the NES version apparently didn't even have a Metal Gear fight in it, which defeats the whole purpose of that title. Now, bear in mind, Metal Gear 2 on the NES and Metal Gear 2 on the MSX have 0 in common. Like, at least the original was like an altered version. This one, totally 2 different things. If you want to play Metal Gear 1 and 2, the true ones, you can either do it through an emulator, but if you want to do it legally, you can get it off of any copy of Metal Gear Solid 3 sold that's not the first version on PS2. So basically, the version you have involves a free moving camera. It's available as a special feature. Let's go.
Seriously affects the global economy in 1999. As a countermeasure, a scientist named Dr. Marv has created a synthetic oil. The answer to all the world's oil problems seems like something a small independent nation of Zanzibar would be interested in. So they up and kidnap the scientist. NATO discovers that the leader of Zanzibar land planned to hold the rest of the world hostage by controlling the oil supply. They are using yet another nuclear-armed Metal Gear and a series of smaller, non-nuclear Metal Gears to defend their new investment. In response to this, the U.S. has Colonel Roy Campbell, the new leader of Foxhound,
Roy Campbell.
the same Roy Campbell Big Boss saved back in Portable Ops. They have him send in the top Foxhound agent, Solid Snake, on Christmas Eve to save the good doctor.
That's also Colonel Campbell from Metal Gear Solid 1.
After learning how Big Boss survived in the bombing from NATO in the last game, Solid Snake rescues the Doctor. But as he frees him, Gray Fox stops their rescue in a Metal Gear. Gray Fox, also known as Frank Yeager, is another soldier Big Boss saved back in 1966, if you remember correctly. Or you could check that last video where we go over how Big Boss saved him.
Also, super quick thing. If you've never watched Metal Gear Solid and you're watching my Metal Gear playthroughs, if you're a German speaker, you may have just reached an epiphany. Please don't spoil it. And if you're not a German speaker, don't worry about it. I'll explain it later.
Before they can end their fight, Solid Snake tries to catch up to the Doctor only to find him dead. But the mission is not a failure, as Solid Snake takes the formula for the synthetic oil. But before he can get away with it, Gray Fox shows up again for his rematch. Solid Snake, air quote, kills, end air quote, Gray Fox, and then meets up with Big Boss, the mastermind behind the Zanzibar Land Island plans. Solid Snake turns into MacGyver and creates a flamethrower out of a lighter and an aerosol can and proceeds to burn and, air quote, kill, end air quote, Big Boss again. Are you noticing a trend? No one really stays dead in this series.
Spoiler, yeah.
Before he died, though, Big Boss dropped a bomb of news on Solid Snake that he was, in fact, his father, in a sense, kind of. Are you ready for it? The big plot twist? Well, this game wasn't followed up by any, really. But here's what happened to the characters. Solid Snake went into retirement, moving to the Alaskan wilderness to live in solitude. Big Boss's body was recovered by the Patriots. They placed his body on ice and managed to revive him in a comatose state using nanomachines. His body and genes would once again be used to try and create the perfect soldiers, this time for the genome soldiers involved in the upcoming Shadow Moses mission. His body was kept around, though, by an old and sentimental Major Zero. The fact that Major Zero did this pissed off Ocelot, who secretly began to plot against Major Zero and the Patriots.
Okay, I'm going to cut that last little part because it is spoilery for other games I'm going to play. But yeah, that's the basic synopsis of Metal Gear 1 and 2. If I had done a reaction video to each like I thought I would, it would be hours of footage for about 10 minutes of story. So yeah, so that's all for today's episode of Metal Gear Mondays, and I will see you tomorrow with what is probably going to be some more Harry Potter. But yeah, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe if you have any sort of interest. I do daily uploads. If there's any games you'd like to see me play or any content at all that you would be willing to suggest, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I'll see you tomorrow.